Today on the Big 3 and 30 College, Lane Kiffin calls out Ole Miss.
It's past the point of fun.
Missouri running back Ahmad Hardy is in stable condition after a shooting earlier this week.
He is in stable condition after having surgery basically immediately.
And Notre Dame lands a 5-star recruit on the offensive line.
It's official. He is committed to Notre Dame.
This is the Big 3 and 30 College. The 3 biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 and 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 and 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Lane Kiffin stirred up Ole Miss again with comments about recruiting challenges after his move to LSU. Stephen Willis with Locked On Ole Miss sorts through the fallout.
An LSU radio host just wrote that what every honest LSU fan is thinking. This Ole Miss LSU rivalry for September 19th, it's past the point of fun. Chris Marler at LouisianaSports.net wrote a column yesterday, headline, Kiffin, Ole Miss feud boiling to a potentially dangerous level. The headline got clicks. The actual take got buried. He had a graphic that went with it about cancel the game, essentially. But Chris Marler's real point was Lane Kiffin has pushed this rivalry past the point of fun for this game. He knows the game isn't getting canceled, okay? But it is at a tipping point. And here's the truth that nobody on the LSU side will say out loud. It's 100% Lane Kiffin's fault. 100%. Stay with me, everydayers. I will walk you through what Marler wrote and the 5 receipts that prove this is all on Kiffin and why Ole Miss isn't saying a word and doesn't have to. Marler's first quote, it might be time to seriously consider canceling LSU's September trip to Oxford. That allows you to start thinking a little bit. If that game got canceled, it would only benefit LSU, and I don't think LSU thinks they're going to win that. In one of the couple of redos that Lane Kiffin did in his articles across college football, he mentioned that this is going to be a slow build. We might be better in year 2 or year 3 than we're going to be in year 1. The reality is Ole Miss has a better roster as it sits right now and is going to be the favorite in that football game. So kind of start deflecting and turning attention away from a loss that could be coming on September 19th. Anyway, later on in the column, he quoted, they're not going to cancel that game, but here's some legitimate reasons at least to consider it. And the line that tells you his real point, I hope it's over soon because it's not fun anymore. And that's the point. This thing has gone way past normal rivalry fun. And it is because of Lane Kiffin stoking this rivalry. Marler isn't predicting a cancellation. He's writing an obituary for what used to be a fun thought of game. On that point, Marler's right. But do not get this twisted, okay? Marler is not on Ole Miss's side in any of this. Same column, Marler wrote that Ole Miss fan is, quote, Latin for if you ever leave us for a better program, we will haunt you in your dreams every day for the next 8 months. Marler also argued that Kiffin should have left for, quote, a better program with an actual track record of winning national titles post landing on the moon. I could argue that Ole Miss was the last SEC team in last year's college football playoff, and one pass interference call missed away from potentially playing for the national title. But hey, that only happened, 4 months ago? Who knows? Listen, we're not haunting Coach Spraytan's dreams because we're crazy, Marler. We're mad because he abandoned the team mid-college football playoff run, a team that could win the national championship. He left for a program that he thought could win a national championship and left a program that was in the process of playing for a national championship. How he left, what he did, the stuff that you're seeing right now, He was doing that in Oxford, Mississippi in November. Nobody was paying attention because everybody wanted the coach. And here's what nobody else is telling you about right now. The 5 receipts of why this is 100% Lane Kiffin's fault. Receipt 1. Coach Spraytan left mid-college football playoff run on November 30th, 2025. While the team was active in the playoffs, no coach in modern SEC history has done that, period. Ole Miss fans have a reason to feel away because of just that fact, period. Receipt number 2, the Vanity Fair article that he gave this week. He gave a 4-hour interview and dropped the "girl we know to inferior girlfriend" quote. It was intent to be a shot. It was taken as a shot. It is going to be the bulletin board material for Ole Miss for roughly the next decade in this rival. Compared Ole Miss to a worse romantic partner, right? In a national magazine 4 months before the game. Receipt number 3. Coach George Hamilton took a diversity shot at Oxford. Completely Bush League type stuff. He's had to apologize for this comment multiple times. Dropped a segregation line. And on one of my other shows that I'm on during the week, I talked about this. It doesn't matter that he apologized for saying it. This quote got in print, and it's going to be used in recruiting over and over and over again. So at ESPN, he gave the full apology. He walked back with what was going on with Vanity Fair as well. Receipt number 5, Lane Kiffin signed a 7-year, $91 million contract with LSU. That's the only number that explains this timeline. That's the only thing that's absolutely defensible. That's the only thing that you need to concern yourself with, because everything else is just noise. He left Ole Miss for LSU for money for players, for money for his wallet, all of that stuff. That is the only thing that he should be saying, and he should be keeping his mouth shut about Ole Miss, because if he did that, you would not have this nuclear bomb getting ready to go up on September 19th. So I need you to hear this part. Ole Miss isn't talking. I am. Notice who's been quiet. Pete Golding hasn't said a word about the Vanity Fair piece. Not one quote. Trinidad Chambliss has not said a word. Kewan Lacey hasn't said a word. Keith Carter, the Ole Miss AD, pushed back once on ESPN, and that was it. The entire Ole Miss program is doing what classy programs do when the other guy is digging his own grave. They're letting him dig. Ole Miss isn't talking because Ole Miss doesn't have to. The receipts speak for themselves. He is the one trying to defend the indefensible. Vanity Fair printed Coach Spraytan's own quotes. Marler confirmed that the rivalry is past the point of fun in the article that I did on LouisianaSports.net. Ole Miss can stay quiet. I'm the one talking because Lane Kiffin earned this heat from me, period. What Martler got right and what he got wrong, though, what he got right, Lane Kiffin pushed this rivalry past the point of fun. The tipping point is absolutely here. September 19th is the date circled. What he got wrong, he framed it as both fan bases equally share the blame. They don't. One coach abandoned his team mid-playoff. People got upset about that. One coach gave Vanity Fair the inferior girlfriend quote. One coach took the diversity shot. One coach had to apologize twice because he knew what he did was wrong. That coach is Coach Spraytan. And the heat he is getting is heat that he earned from me and everybody else. Every day or circle September 19th on the calendar of the permanent marker. Coach Spraytan gets exactly what he earned. The game itself will speak. I keep telling you the truth, and I will keep telling you the truth until then, because somebody has to in this whole deal. End of debate.
Your outdoor space should feel like you. It's one of those spots you keep meaning to fix up but never quite got around to. That's where Wayfair comes in. They make it easy to find pieces that match the vibe you wanted. I love how easy it is to filter by style and budget on the site so you can find exactly what fits your space. They have everything in one place: seating, decor, lighting, and even outdoor rugs too. And with thousands of verified reviews, you feel confident in what you're getting. Now the space actually feels put together, somewhere you want to sit, relax, and spend time. Get prepped for patio season for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Missouri running back Ahmad Hardy is out of the hospital after being shot in the upper leg earlier this week. John Miller with Locked On Mizzou talks through what comes next for the running back.
According to police there, Ahmad Hardy was shot in the upper leg, by the way. That is obviously a concerning bit of information there, but as Missouri put out, well, he is in stable condition after having surgery basically immediately. According to the Laurel Leader Call newspaper, Ahmad Hardy was shot at the Kamikaze Biker Bar Club in Laurel, Mississippi. The shooting took place around 2 a.m. on Sunday as the establishing was closing. An outdoor rap concert had apparently taken place there. And according to police, it drew a large crowd, and then gunshots rang out at the end. 3 young men are suspects and have been brought in for questioning, but as of this recording, no arrests have been made. No motive has been established. Importantly here, per an ESPN source, this is according to Pete Thamel, there's optimism that Hardy will play football again. I'm quoting here, how quickly he can return, and the impact isn't known. He's alert today and moving around. So let me just share with you the full statement from Mizzou Athletics as well. It says, Mizzou student athlete Ahmad Hardy was the victim of a shooting at a concert in Mississippi early Sunday morning and sustained a gunshot wound. Ahmad underwent surgery Sunday in Mississippi is in stable condition. Ahmad is deeply loved by his teammates, coaches, friends, family, and fans. We will continue to stand behind him and his family through this difficult time, offering our love, prayers, strength, and support. A timeline for his return to Mizzou football activities is unknown at this time. Mizzou Athletics will provide more information on his status when it becomes available. So the tone of that and the lack of information there and the information we've gotten subsequently from various reporting that Hardy was indeed shot in the upper leg, a lot of concerning elements of there. Nothing that is saying, hey, he's definitely going to be playing football this fall. David Ubben, by the way, a Missouri alum at The Athletic, said he spoke with the police regarding his shooting, and police are declining to release an incident report because there is an active investigation into the shooting. So obviously, number one, let's all be thankful that Ahmad Hardy didn't die. I mean, this is a horrible thing that happened, obviously. And no matter what happens football-wise, let's at least be thankful that a young man who just became a father fairly recently in the past few months, I believe, is still with us. I think that's probably the number one takeaway. But then of course, your mind goes to, well, if he got shot in the leg, well, there's a big difference between a flesh wound, for example, and if that bullet potentially, go into his femur bone or hit some ligaments, or there's a million different possibilities here, all of which are unknown at this point. So we're just going to have to sit back and wait. So now you just ask yourself, what would happen if Hardy does miss at least some time? Well, obviously Jamal Roberts is a really good player too, no doubt about it. And Missouri is paying Jamal Roberts a decent amount of money to be not only just a backup running back, but also a complement to what Hardy does well. But there is absolutely no doubt. And of course, the conventional wisdom these days is that, well, running backs are fairly replaceable. But I'll just tell you, Hardy, I think as all Missouri fans know, he's a pretty special player. And as good as Roberts is, he's not the explosive runner that Ahmad Hardy is as a player. Is the type of guy who, I mean, could be a first-round NFL draft pick. I've seen him in multiple mock drafts, extremely early mock drafts though they are, as a first-round NFL draft pick, mostly with his elite tackle-breaking ability. So yeah, also the question is going to be not only how quickly Hardy can come back to the field, but also to his full performance as well. So obviously I think the Tigers can survive without Hardy, but it certainly lowers the ceiling of the offense. There's no doubt about that. The one thing I said Missouri could almost certainly count on this coming season is an elite rushing attack. For all the questions at quarterback and defense and everywhere else, I just think that was the one thing that was almost a sure thing. Well, that puts that a little bit in jeopardy. I'm sure the Missouri rushing attack is going to be good regardless, but elite, that's an entirely different question. And I will say, I thought it was interesting this offseason. Eli Drinkwitz had some comments about Ahmad Hardy that made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. It came off as, of course, being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, as often Eli Drinkwitz and his comments do, but I just never really seen him say anything publicly or individually about any player in their off-season activities. Now, it seemed like, Drinkwitz was saying, well, Hardy's got 3 or 4 horses now, that type of deal. I was just wondering, maybe do they feel like he's spending too much time on the horses, or that's dangerous or something like that? Listen, I'm still not really sure what to make of those particular comments. But I will say, in this particular instance in which Hardy has found himself, obviously you don't want to blame the victim here whatsoever. At the same time, when you're at the Kamikaze Biker Club, let me say that again, the Kamikaze Biker Club at 2:00 in the morning. And by the way, there's a hip-hop concert of unknown people, by the way, which does factor in here. Let's maybe make some better judgment calls in the future about where we spend our time. And that goes for all young people and all people in general, of course. There's no more true cliche in all of humanity than nothing good happens after 2 a.m. By the way, good things do happen, or excuse me, it's after 12. Nothing good happens after midnight. I conflated the 2 a.m. that I just threw out there. But truly nothing good happens after midnight at a bar. That's really the point there. Go back to your house. Go back to your bedroom and have some real fun. You know what I'm saying? But I digress. The point here is that it had been one thing. There was a concert in Mississippi that day featuring T.I. and Ludacris and some other famous hip-hop acts where they would have had, well, a lot better security. Let's put it that way. And the reality is, for Ahmad Hardy, not only is he a celebrity, especially in the South where he's from the state of Mississippi, he's a big-time SEC running back. Guess what? You're a celebrity anywhere in the South. If one person recognizes you, now all of a sudden everybody's talking, going, hey, that's that running back from Missouri. Remember we saw him play in high school, and they might have actually beaten my high school. Remember that when he rushed for 400 yards against us and blah, blah, blah. Let's show him what's up. And by the way, the guy who owns all those horses, he makes a lot of money now. All of these guys do. The prominent players on Missouri and everybody in the SEC, these guys make a bunch of money now, and everybody's well aware of that. That creates a lot of jealousy and everything else, and yeah, maybe some robberies and that kind of stuff too. That means you can be a target, and often are, and that is unfair, and it's sad. But unfortunately, well, it's an unfortunate reality. So again, I'm not saying Ahmad Hardy is at fault here or anything. I'm just saying in the future, just let's be realistic here. Guys like LeBron James and, famous professional athletes, Saquon Barkley, I don't think he's out until 2 a.m. at the Kamikaze Biker Club. If he's out somewhere at 2 a.m., you best believe it's probably a high-end, bar where he's behind several several layers of security and velvet ropes and all of that good stuff. Not just out some outdoor concert at 2 a.m. where everybody is, let's be honest, there's not a single person who is not imbibed quite a bit in alcohol at that point. Again, let's just have better judgment. And instead of keeping it real, let's maybe act like we have some money and go some places where it's a little bit safer to attend. Hey, you're into hip hop? Great. Go to the T.I. concert. Go to the Luda concert. They have actual celebrity. They have actual security for said celebrities at these places. And unlike this place where I've yet to even see who the concert was for. That means they have pretty lax security. Let's put it that way. So again, not blaming the victim here. In the future, though, let's be realistic about the sad reality that college athletes more than ever, especially with social media, phones, the ability to instantly recognize somebody and figure out who they are with facial recognition and AI and all that stuff. This is the reality we live in. So let's just be realistic about it. That's my whole point.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your premium status job the status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. If you've ever opened up your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish got a huge, and I mean literally huge, 5-star offensive line commitment earlier this week. Tyler Wojciech with Locked On Irish explains the pickup.
We wanted to wait for 5-star offensive tackle Olu Olubobla to officially announce his decision before recording, and now that it's official, he is committed to Notre Dame. We are here. And today, we're going to break down why this commitment is such a massive statement from Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame recruiting, plus why the Irish are suddenly operating differently in NIL battles and what it means moving forward for the offensive line room. Plus, we're diving into the latest twist in the Notre Dame-USC rivalry saga because somehow this story refuses to die. And later in the show, we're going to update the recruiting board and look at which elite prospects could be next to jump into Notre Dame's class of 2027. But we have to begin with the biggest headline from Tuesday. Notre Dame landed 5-star offensive tackle Olu Olubobla. And in the process, Notre Dame proved they can win a recruiting battle against the biggest spenders in the country when they want to. That's the key, when they want to, because Notre Dame certainly has plenty of money, but they're not just, spending it left and right freely across the board. They are very strategic, and when they make an aggressive move, more often than not, they land that prospect in the Marcus Freeman era. And this is a huge deal for the Notre Dame class of 2027 because Olubobla is the number 3 offensive tackle in the entire country. And he is rated as the number 15 player overall on the 24/7 Sports Composite. So we're talking about one of the best players in the entire class, regardless of position. He's 6'6", 295 pounds, and he plays for St. Peter's Prep in New Jersey. That is actually the same high school as former Notre Dame defensive ends, or defensive linemen, I should say, Jason and Justin Adamiola, as well as former quarterback Brandon Wimbush and Alabama star Minka Fitzpatrick and Ohio State linebacker Cody Simon all went to see St. Peter's Prep as well. So this is a big-time program with a lot of really talented football players, and Olu Bobla certainly fits that mold. So how did Notre Dame win this recruitment? Because this all happened pretty quickly, and there have been a lot of questions like, how did Notre Dame do this? Because a couple weeks ago, it didn't even seem like they were a factor. Now, all of a sudden, they are landing his commitment on May 12th. Well, there's two main reasons here. Number one is money, and number two is timing. And in this story, those two things are directly related. So last week, I didn't even mention Olu Bobla when I predicted the next 6 guys to commit to Notre Dame in the class of 2027. As a matter of fact, he didn't even really cross my mind because at the time, and mind you, this was last Thursday, Notre Dame was not really considered a major threat, but that all changed, and it changed in a hurry. Brian Doan of 24/7 Sports had a great article detailing how Notre Dame went from the sidelines to the heavy favorite to land Olu Bobla, as Doan put it. Texas A&M was considered the favorite to land him for a really long time, with Miami and Florida not far behind. Texas A&M recently made an aggressive pursuit to land 5-star offensive tackle Mark Matthews, though. And Matthews is the number 1 offensive tackle in the class. And considering Texas A&M already has 1 5-star offensive tackle committed in their class of 2027, the fact that they were going after Matthews too, it opened the door for Olu Bobla to take another look, a closer look at the other schools that he was considering. Because even though Texas A&M was considered the favorite, there were certainly a bunch of schools after him. And for Texas A&M, taking 3 offensive tackles in the top 50 just isn't realistic from a financial standpoint. And it seems like A&M decided to prioritize Mark Matthews late in the process. And Mark Matthews is actually going to announce his commitment on Friday. He announced that on Monday. So we're going to see if it pays off. But you can see with Olu Bobla making his commitment decision today and then Mark Matthews announcing his decision on Friday, just kind of shows you how quickly all these dominoes are falling. So while Texas A&M started recruiting Mark Matthews a little bit more aggressively, Miami stepped in and they started to recruit Olu Bobla a little bit harder as well. And at one point recently, it kind of felt like Miami might actually be the leader to land him, but they also have to balance that with trying to keep Mark Matthews home and get him to commit to the Canes. Because as I mentioned, Mark Matthews is from St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So for as hard as Texas A&M is going after him, Miami has been on him for a very long time because he plays high school football right in their backyard. And Miami has a lot of money to spend, no doubt. But spending 7 figures on 2 different offensive tackles in the same class might have been a bridge too far, so they weren't ready to go all in on Olu Bobla just yet because Mark Matthews was still their number 1 priority at the tackle position. Meanwhile, Florida landed 5-star offensive tackle Maxwell Hiller a month ago, and they recently added another blue-chip offensive tackle, Elijah Hutchison, last week. So while all these other schools were figuring out their boards and maybe more specifically how to divvy up all this money that they have and how to budget it for certain positions, Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame coaching staff saw an opportunity to jump in. Right now, the Irish only have 1 offensive tackle commit in the class, and that is legacy prospect James Halter, who's been committed to Notre Dame since October of last year. So the Irish have money to spend, and we know how much they value offensive tackles. So the staff reached out, and they were able to get him on campus in South Bend 3 weeks ago. Plus, according to Brian Doan, the Notre Dame staff did frequent Zoom calls with Olu Bobla and his parents after the visit, and once they had the NIL package and all the academic stuff in order, the Irish became the school to beat. It also helps that Notre Dame has a relationship with Olu Bobla's agent, Latish Kinsler, because Kinsler also represents transfer wide receiver Quincy Porter, who is from the New Jersey area as well. Now, Olu Bobla is officially in Notre Dame's class of 2027. Maybe Dabo Swinney was onto something when he said Notre Dame prints its own money in its backyard, or at least it seems that way right now, because Notre Dame is throwing money around in a way that I'm not sure I ever really expected to compete with Texas A&M and Miami, two of the biggest spenders in the entire sport, and win on a 5-star offensive tackle that they did really want, even though they were also going after Mark Matthews, is just a resounding statement that is going to be heard across college football. The biggest surprise to me is not that Notre Dame is willing to pay 7 figures for a 5-star recruit, because they signed 4 5-star recruits last year. It's that they're willing to do it for a guy who likely won't play for at least 2 years, in my opinion. And that's a good way to segue into the scouting report here. Ole Miss has a ton of potential, like future NFL first-round draft pick potential, but he is a very raw prospect, and he's going to need some time to develop. He's got great size, right? 6'6", 295 pounds. And according to Charles Power from Rivals, Ole Miss measured in with a 7'1" wingspan before his senior season. He's also gained 35 pounds since his sophomore season, and he has plenty more to add once he gets to college. So there's certainly a lot of things to like, right? Andrew Ivins, the director of scouting for 24/7 Sports, called him a lean, mean, and green offensive tackle with a monster ceiling, given the combination of his length and twitch. He is an elite athlete for someone with his size. He bends at the knees and creates extension with his arms. Plus, he's got quick feet, so he's able to wall off run lanes and extend pockets. I really like the fact that he seeks out contact in the run game. He can be a very violent run blocker, even though I think most people would say that his strength is in pass protection.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA or the Big 3 in 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks for tuning in to the Big 3 in 30 College.